here. I am going to talk about lithops today. How many of you know what a lithop is? Ooh, I'm impressed. It's been cold. It's been really cold. And so the lithops are something that you can tend to and propagate and enjoy inside. They are not hardy outside, so when you do get them, you need to keep them in all the time. And they're native to Africa, South Africa to be specific. And I have some in here, and I'm not going to pass them around because yeah, I'll put them out and you can come up and take a look at them. But what they look like, what they're called, are living stones. And they look just like a stone, and they do that as a way of protecting themselves from predators. So when you're walking in the desert, which is where they are, you'll look down and you'll see these little living stones. And of course, if you're an animal, you won't eat it. The part that you see is actually the leaf, and they have a very long taproot. And the nice thing about them is you only water them in the summer. And you wait until they get quite shriveled. And so they're very, very low maintenance. But they come in a range of colors. They come in pink, reds, yellows, greens. The most common color is gray. But if you do some researching, or if you grow them from seed, which I did for the first time, and it is really not difficult. And some of the smaller ones I have up here that you can take a look at, I grew from seed. You can order the seeds online. And it's no more difficult than propagating any other kind of seed. You just have to have soil that has, let's see, it needs to be 80% grit and 20% organic matter. So you want it to mimic what's in the desert. And they're just charming. And my husband says they're very boring, but I think they're charming. And the best thing about them is in the late fall, they flower. And they put up this daisy-like flower that's, usually about this big. And it can be yellow and white. Once in a while, if you get one that's pink, you better hold on to it. It's really rare. But it's a gorgeous little daisy flower. And then after it flowers, and you'll see some, I've got some here where they just finished flowering, and then the flower sort of disappears as a stem because they're split in the middle. They look like a horse's hoof. And then you don't water them all during the winter and during the spring. You don't want to water them because that's when they're going to reproduce. So what they'll do after they flower is in the middle of the split, they'll put up a new lithops. And by the way, it's lithops all the time, whether it's one or more than one. There is no lithop. So anyway, it'll split and put up these new ones, and it gets all of its water from the other two sides. And you'll see this, the old lithops on the side will start to shrivel up, and pretty soon they'll turn into this little papery thing, and they're done. And then you've got new lithops. And sometimes they will split and you'll get twins. And you'll get even more than one. So they're a lot of fun, and they're very low maintenance. You want to put them on a sunny windowsill. They like a fair amount of light, and they do great in the house because they want it dry. And most of our houses, especially in the winter, are on the dry side. So, in case you don't want a lithop and you want to have a succulent, I brought a couple of mine that you can take a look, and there's a huge variety of them, and they're just as easy to take care of as the lithops. And the main thing, and also with the lithops, is you want to put them in a terracotta pot because it has good drainage and they don't get soggy, because that's sort of their death knell if water them too much. And you'll know if you watered it too much, it'll start to get mushy and then it'll basically disappear on you.
So do other plants propagate, what other plants propagate the same way that lithops do?
I don't know of any other ones, and I'm no expert on succulents.
Oh, okay.
But most of them have little offshoots that come off. And in fact, on some of the ones I have here that I brought, they're putting out offshoots. And then what I do is take the whole thing out of the pot, separate it, and you usually have to cut it, but you leave enough of the root on the offshoot, and so then you've got more than one. Okay? Now I lost my train of thought. If you decide you don't want a lithops, there's lots of succulents, and cacti are part of succulents. Succulent just means a fleshy leaf that stores water. And the main thing with a cactus is they have spines. So you might, be a little more careful with those or think twice about them. But there is a huge range of them out there, and they're all so interesting. So I just really can't say enough about it. Okay, let's talk about your chores. Even though it has been freezing cold out, there is still a lot to do in the garden. You want to finish pruning your roses. If you haven't done that, you need to get to it right away because they're starting to leaf out. And then be sure to put a nice organic fertilizer on them. You don't want to put a chemical fertilizer at this point because the organic one will take a while to break down, and it's still cold, so you don't want them to put out a lot of new growth right away until it warms up. Finish digging and dividing your perennials. A lot of the hostas, you'll see they look like little bullets. They're putting those up. You can lift the whole thing up. And a lot of the perennials, such as the irises and the hostas, they send out new growth on the perimeter, and then the inside of the plant of the cluster gets real woody, and it's basically not doing anything for you. So that's another good reason for lifting and dividing them. And then if you've got that hardcore center on some of them, I just cut that off. And then replant them, and of course put some good compost in the soil. And if it's not raining, give them a good drink. Your snowdrops, if you have snowdrops and they're just starting to finish up flowering, you want to lift them and divide them before they disappear. And by that, all I mean is you dig up the whole clump, just pull it apart. You don't need to do every little bulb. You're just separating the clumps, and then replant those. And that's a good way to spread your supply of snowdrops. They will spread by seed, but it takes them a lot longer. Okay, flowering summer bulbs are in the nursery, such as dahlias, crocosmias, lilies. Oh yeah, don't forget the lilies. Cannas. There's a whole range of summery flowering bulbs that are available that you can plant now, and then you'll have them to enjoy during the summer. Watch for slugs. Even though it's been chilly, the slugs are starting to come out. So, and there's lots of ways you can get rid of them. I usually, especially after rain, I'll go out with my clippers, my hand clippers, and look the other way and cut them in half. You can also find the little slug eggs. They're little transparent circular things, and if you find those under the leaves, you can take those out and step on them. Sounds a little violent, but it does work. If you have delphiniums or rhubarb, now's the time to fertilize them. And I put just a little bit of commercial fertilizer, and then I put a nice layer of mulch or compost around them because they're all heavy feeders. And if you have clematis that are in group 3, and you might say, well, how do I know if I have group 3? Because there's 1, 2, 3 groups. Group 3 is the one that flowers at the end of the summer. So if you don't know what your clematis is, and you know the name, you can look it up. But if you have group 3, you want to cut them all the way back to the ground. In fact, if you go out there, you'll see the new shoots are coming up. So they bloom on new growth. So just go ahead and cut them and get the old stuff out of there. And if you're not sure, pay attention to what time they flower, if they're in group 1, 2, or 3. Okay, any questions? Yes?
So here, it says to water on the lithops,
Uh-huh.
to water in fall and spring, and you keep saying fall.
Well,
Do you water in spring too?
no, and that was a typo, so thank you for correcting. Any other questions?